I'm 4 billion years old. I am not a carbon copy of my parents or my family. They are not what they seem to say I am. I know it. I know the depth of my light and who I am and what's alive inside me. So it's well known, these families that have a child that's so different from the others. Where did this artist come from instead of this family of these type of individuals? It's a very common scenario and trips people up. They're like, what is this phenomenon? What is it about? I'd argue it's related to this deeper ancestral pool that is natural in terms of the propagation of life. If you have a smart parent with a high IQ dad, high IQ mom, more likely you're going to have a high IQ kid. However, there is a tremendous pull to the regression of the mean. So the two high IQ parents very well and have a probability weight of also their kid coming back towards the mean of IQ. The same in reverse. To low IQ individuals, their kid has more likelihood, hence they're coming from ancestral pools, to come up in IQ. So very common that Forrest Gump would have a smart kid. So I'm Dr. Louíe, again with Wild Man Psychiatry, and I've come across this topic in a few scenarios. It could be with parents about to have a kid and are feeling the mystery, worry, the uncertainty of it. What's to come? What do I do? I don't want to create the same mistakes my parents did for me. Or who is this kid? Is it going to be someone who is a copy of me? What is this charming creature and thing, but who is also their own person and entity? Or also an infant observation in psychoanalysis, where we have to observe a newborn child and see how their mind emerges, seeing the family system. Or even thinking about yourself, are you going to follow in your parents' footsteps? These families where the last names are Carpenter or Smith or Baker, or this and that. Was your father a doctor? Was your father an engineer? Was your mother a lawyer? Do you, obviously most do, feel that pressure to follow in their footsteps and be who they are? But you also realize, wait, I'm very different from them. What is that difference about? What is the wide gulf and divide in which who you are, or who your child is, different from who you are as a parent? We're talking about 4 billion years of life propagating itself. It's deep in the technological designs of the cellular architecture. The machinery of the egg and the sperm, the machinery of the vascularity, the machinery of the mitochondria leaping from cell to cell, coming from mother, the machinery of this 4 billion year old thing that has been refined and grown and developed way before we became an individual species of Homo sapiens. What is this ancient, sophisticated dance of multiple layers within the jungle that is the propagation of life forward? And where do you now stand as a child outcome face of it, or as a parent, as a conduit for the 4 billion year old Jubilee life parade? You sit at a crossroads of millions of ancestors coming together within the roots of the technology in your body and design, which even the most advanced doctors don't entirely know the truth of. Just like you consciously don't know the truth of what's within your body and what's this 4 billion year old magic at play doing its invisible ancient dance forward in time. Or me, myself, realizing in my roots from a family of engineers, you look up to your parents. My father, I very much look up to him. Coming from Cuba as a young kid, we did not lose our class or education. He goes from shining shoes in Florida to MIT to become an engineer, and Cornell, Ivy League, for a master's in engineering. Both my older brother and I deeply looked up to him. My older brother which is very common in families in which we look up to our parents and seek to mimic them in many different ways, became a petroleum engineer also. However, Jay's alluded to me that perhaps that wasn't his deepest ancient calling, what would have made him come fully alive. I realized engineering was not for me. Certainly I had some of the shared characteristics, the aptitude for math, the hyper-tuned dopamine system, etc. I kind of parlayed it to be an engineer of the mind, as I like to say, and the curiosity there. It drove me like a vine, like a force of nature, thrusting towards the light into who and what I was supposed to become. And I continue on that journey as well, as many of you do in addition. So in those people who feel lost or different or confused, either as a child or a parent, realize this is all par for the course, baby. It's awesome. It's joyous. It's nature at her strongest in her diversity. She's bringing forward the tapestry and the stained glass window of all the potencies and magics lingering in the almanac and playbook of our species. When I think about this as godfather to my niece Nora, when I look at her, I remember that. I look at Nora deeply, also Luca, my nephew, but I treat them and resonate with them as a good uncle, godfather, steward to another 4 billion-year-old being. And again, they pick up on it. They feel heard, they feel registered. It waters their deepest natural potencies and roots. I listen intently, closely into the deeper spark and kernel of who they are from the ancestors, and I seek to evolve them into their greatest own individual being. So, a cool way to think is that you are a conduit for your so-called ancestors, like a stained glass window with a million fragments that blend together from one's mother and one's father and come together and then form an image of the child, you, of the stained glass window, of all the fragments from all prior living things within the giant wells of the species, of nature at large, conduiting together simply through this invisible technology that your partly conscious parents are participating in and bringing you forward. Realize that incredible, I think, closer to truth element of having children or being the child of a parent. You are not a carbon copy. You are not owned. You are not simply a half and a half formula of mother and father. You are brought forward from a deeper well of ancestral life. You are your own succinct entity, as old as the 4 billion-year-old well of life as it is. So, as the child or as the parent, what do we do for this 4 billion-year-old made in the image of God ancient being that comes forward? That deep root inside you, that child that is so miraculous you see as a parent and be like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Parents talk about this journey and don't have words for it. The incredible phenomenon of breathing forward a soul and all the deep light and potency of a soul. A child who is one of your ancestors. With this, I'd say, as a fun reframing, that you are given stewardship for a very old magic, a very old majesty that is valuable beyond words, that has a capacity and potency that is tremendous, but also is of a deeper design and variability than what you're entirely prepared for. You can't totally control who the kid is, what ancestor came forward, what are they designed for. Is your kid gonna be happy following in your footsteps and becoming an engineer of an engineer or a doctor of a doctor? Is that the right way to go? I'd say probability may lean against it, or at least you should be receptive that this ancestor you're bringing forward as the child, or you yourself as a child of your parents, realizing you're older than your parents, actually, to try to hone in on your ancient character, to hone in on your stained glass window, your ancestral bestowment. So some direct examples of this reframe that actually the child or you are coming from a broader ancestral pool of life are these interesting phenomenon in nature, these regressions to the mean, Galton and those laws. Very interestingly, these phenomenon where nature produces these interesting condensation points of genius across all spectrums of culture and throughout time and tribes. It's not tied to a single family, it's not tied to a single area, it's tied to a broader, deeper, natural well of life. So it's well known, these random, smart genius person grows up in a small town in India but can solve advanced mathematical formulas.
Ever heard of Ramanujan?
Yeah. No.
It's a man. He lived over 100 years ago. He was Indian. And he lived in this tiny hut somewhere in India. He had no formal education. He had no access to any scientific work.
You, sir?
But he came across this old math book. And from this simple text, he was able to extrapolate theories that had baffled mathematicians for years.
Yeah, continued fractions. Yeah, he wrote it with a...
Well, he mailed it to Hardy.
Yeah.
Hardy in Cambridge.
Yeah.
And Hardy immediately recognized the brilliance of his work and brought him over to England. And then they worked together for years, creating some of the most exciting math theory ever done. And this Ramanujan, his genius was unparalleled, Sean.
Phenomena of IQ like that, and nature does other interesting things too, like the 17-year cicadas, or these bamboo trees that have these life bloom cycles of 45 to 150 years. There's reflections of this deeper, primed background waiting to emerge characteristic of life, which plays out in reproduction and propagation coming forward. So it's exciting, it's potent. You have a rare likelihood of producing a genius. You have a rare likelihood of producing someone who's mad. You have a likelihood of producing a doctor, a lawyer, a carpenter, a home constructor, whatever the beauty of the ancestral pool and its invisible wisdom, as wise as the Holy Spirit, in my opinion, has brought forward according to its design. You are steward to this being. If you want to make it simple and cheeky, you are bestowed a starting Pokémon. And your goal is to take that Pokémon and its innate characteristics and evolve it to its most grown, evolved, greatest, highest level form. Treat your child with a similar reverence for the diversity of nature that is conduiting through you. You as a person realize you are attached to a deeper well majesty of life that has come forward into and through you. You are not your parents. Your child is not a carbon copy of you. You are co-participants in teaching each other how to ride the ancient horse that has come forward and reincarnated in a way once again. Thank you for watching, and hopefully this optimistic opening of this concept to you helps.